there were, goodness me, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 out of 16 matches that were 6-1 or 6-0.
Yeah, you kind of had to be a sicko to enjoy the quarterfinals weekend like I did. Like and it wasn't like they were all purely stomps. It was like it felt like teams were like kind of dangling the point out in front of other teams. Like a lot of close picks, like Wing My Way having like at least 5 or so times where the outcome was under 100K and determined in the ending. Like so many close picks, but they all fell to one side, it felt like.
Yeah, it wasn't a very it was one of those weekends that had a lot of matches that were not super interesting to watch, unfortunately. While we open things up, by the way, one thing that's somewhat interesting, Aaron and I had the opportunity to write or help write the weekly recap news post for the OS World Cup this week. However, because of length restrictions given to us, there was a lot that we had to cut out, like well over half of the content, or about half of the content that we had to cut out from that recap just due to length restrictions. So we'll be using that as a part of what we do here. Aaron, if you want to go over kind of the general overview of the weekend, because that was your part in the recap, in the text recap there for the news post.
Yeah, for sure. So my, quarterfinals week is always a big one, right? It's this shakedown week. You go from 24 teams all the way down to 12. You eliminate a lot of teams that are not super great, and you really get to see your contenders elevating themselves kind of above teams who maybe turn out to be somewhat of pretenders. You get to see the elite of the tournament really matching up against one another finally. And for the teams coming in losers bracket, they have to play 2 matches now, right? Starting quarterfinals week. If you come in losers round 2, you're playing that and you're playing a potential, which is really rough. And so I think a couple big things that we saw this week, and this is kind of just paraphrasing what I had written down, but we got a showcase of the best teams, right? We got to see South Korea on unbelievable form in this particular week. They come in against Hong Kong. They win 6-0 and just play some absolutely incredible OSU. You saw Australia come out against United Kingdom, beat them 6-1. You have Germany and the United States in the other quarterfinals matches. Germany had beaten Russia 6 times in a row in OSU World Cup over the years. And they got the matchup again here in the quarterfinals, and they won it again. So they are now 7-0 against Russia in the OSU World Cup. And of course, the United States, the big storyline there, coming in against Canada. Last year, Canada pulling off that gigantic upset in the quarterfinals. And this year, the United States was like, we're not letting this happen again. This is not going to occur 2 years in a row. That match actually was way closer than it looked on paper. I know it was 6-2, but like the last 2 maps ended up at 150K combined score gap. So really, closer than it looked. And Germany versus Russia likewise was a relatively closely fought match. Losers bracket, of course, as we said, you eliminate 12 teams this week. You eliminate 8 in the first round of losers, and another 4 in the second round of losers for the week. Really not a lot, as Dio said, not a lot of surprises, not a lot of upsets. But of course, the big one as far as pick'ems were concerned was Ukraine. Pick'ems participants had Brazil in this matchup 67% to 32.7%, 67.3, 32.7, and Ukraine comes out and wins 6-1 anyway. There was a really great line from a baseball commentator for the Tigers this year, where he said that a city that doesn't care about the odds has a team to match. And that was just Ukraine this week, man. A country that does not care about the odds. They have an OSU World Cup team to match, man. Really, really cool win for them. And then, you go into potential matches again. Several not close matches, several unsurprising results, but you had China with the big 6-0 sweep over Norway. Poland 6-0 sweep over Turkey. 12-0 week for Poland. Chile 6-1 over Sweden, and then Dio's favorite match, everybody's favorite match of the week, the match of the tournament so far that unfortunately a ton of people probably didn't even know was happening because it was the third match at the same time. But you had the Philippines-Ukraine match of the week, only tiebreaker of the week, crazy back and forth match all the way to tiebreaker, and Philippines coming out on top, and that was the highlight of the weekend. It's not even close, but it was like there were matches that were better than the scoreline indicates, and there were teams that looked incredible. But if you're gonna pick one, you got to pick Philippines Ukraine.
Yeah. We will start with a couple of other matches first before we go into Philippines-Ukraine, because that was the best match of the week. So we'll save that recap for last, and we'll start off talking about Philippines versus France. Miles, if you want to start us off with that one, because there's things to say about both of these teams in this match. Unfortunately for maybe some fans of both of these countries, France dropping out of the tournament and Philippines having a bit of a tough match in this one.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure a lot of people didn't expect France to take 3 points against that Philippines roster that looked to have a lot of momentum on their side, and the France team that, we've said all the talking points about them, kind of negative momentum was kind of the perception of them. But Philippines came into this one pretty good out of the start, winning that Fremont speed pick off of a Nathan Ram only FC in the lobby, winning that one by around 600K. But then France clapped back. I talked last week about France really needing to find an identity. And I feel like in the past, that identity often came to be that gimmick reading. And I think that the No Mod 5 from last week really fit France well. Their Qualia score might have been the best of the weekend. Maybe top one. Is that right, Dio?
Yes.
Pretty sure, yeah.
Yeah, so number one Qualia score of the weekend off of a FIA FC and a Coro 890K and a Kalangi 788K. And that's the exact type of map I know Ekaro really likes to look for. The reading in the no mod, very good for him. But then Philippines rocking on still with the Nathan Ram train. FC'd the Nomad 2, won that one by 136K, so pretty close there. But then wing my way by 943 points going to France in, I think, the closest map of the tournament so far.
I think so.
Absolutely absurd stuff. But then Philippines then winning another mechanics map. Hard Rock won to close out the match. And I'd say maybe unexpected to see France win as many points, and I just realized I forgot to click the show more button on the MP link. Oh my god. But nonetheless,
you got the gist of it. It's okay.
You get the gist of it.
Yeah, you get the gist of it. The other map that France won in this matchup was the Nomad 3, which was No Show Sakuretsu Girl off Charlie 625K, and Philippines not having a player to back up Nathan Ram, 758K, and then you drop all the way down to 341K. And I think that's going to be a little bit of a storyline for Philippines going into this week. Are they going to be able to back up their top players on the maps as we make the gargantuan skill cap jump that we have? But until then, they escaped this match.
When that was like already their question mark last year, right, was getting fourth player in late stages, and that was when they had Henry and Hyuk, and now they don't have Henry and Hyuk, so they're gonna get like second playered.
Yeah, it's gonna be a little tough. We've seen a lot of really good plays out of Milktism as well this year, on top of Nathan Ram performing quite a bit. So I feel like they will have at least those two who are going to be solid on most of the maps. But definitely the same question as last year remains of is the supporting roster good enough for them going into semifinals? Then the next match that was somewhat close, 6-3, not the closest, but the second closest scoreline we had in the quarterfinals was Russia-Germany. This one started off with 2 back-to-back points for Germany. Germany did have first pick. They win the DT4 first pick. They also win the DT3 first pick that comes out from Russia. So Germany still got the speed in them even after everything, but Germany then picks into DT2, loses the breakpoint to Russia. It's a breakpoint back for Germany after that on the No Mod 4 in It's Our Destiny. And then finally, Germany starts winning their own picks. Russia starts winning their own picks. And from pick 5 onwards, Germany's third pick onwards, the teams just traded picks back and forth. And of course, Germany ends up winning in that case with the 3-1 early lead. They end up winning that match 6-3. So it was, of course, still a good match. There were some close points, like the DT3, for example, was won by less than 26,000 points by Germany. Russia got 2 full combos and a one slider break from Ice Shark on that map. But I think even then it still wouldn't have been enough, even with the full combo, unfortunately. So this one ended up being a very, very tight match, right? There's a couple of 200k score differences later on down the line as well. But unfortunately for Russia, the curse remains, right? This is a team that has not made the top 6 since before 2020, and they have to fight their way through losers bracket this weekend to do so. They do not guarantee the top 6 in quarterfinals.
I feel like Russia is just so cursed. Like this match was completely winnable for them. It was never a case of like Russia not playing well. It was always a case of Germany playing better. Like Dio said, 3 FCs on DT3, they lose it. 2 FCs on DT1 and 2 700Ks, they lose it. Like Germany just has Russia's number, and it's really unfortunate because last year they did almost have Germany on the ropes. They were on match point, and then TB was forced and they lose it. It's just really tragic for Russia in this matchup.
Yeah, I mean, it's 7 in a row, right? They've played 7 times in the World Cups, and Germany's won all of them. It's I don't know. It legitimately, like, it's just the smallest margins on so much stuff, and like this match, like, I don't know what Germany was thinking picking DT2 second. By the way, like, does anyone know why in the world they would possibly do that? Like, that map is so hyper RNG. Why would you pick that to try to consolidate a break point when you have like so many other maps that I think objectively would have just been better? Like, I don't get that at all. But
I think it's probably like a consistency check sort of map for them, right? You're picking one of the longest maps in the pool, so as the team that has the head-to-head history win, as the team that typically does end up higher, they maybe feel like they're better on the longer consistency stuff. You do have players who are very good on the kind of alt flame stuff in Kriller and Whitecat, so I feel like there's reasons to pick it. I don't agree with the pick, like you said. There's better stuff, but I see where they come from with the pick.
But I don't know. I think a big thing for me too with this one is like, anytime you have multiple occasions where Whitecat and Kriller are your top scorers and you're winning picks, like, you're probably doing something right as Germany. Like, those are the players that they've keyed on for a few years now. And if Whitecat can start playing well with his skill cap, they put themselves in a good spot in the late stages of tournaments. And Russia, man, well, we'll talk about the predictions when we get there, but it's that team is just cursed.
I'll just say,
it's tough.
I'm even more confused actually about the pick after that. Russia picking Nomad 4 after
Nomad
Germany
4.
picks Swing My Way. Like, that's the Kriller Whitecat skill set, no?
Yeah, I don't know. The picks in this match, like, are very strange to me. I get, like, the first pick for each team makes perfect sense, right? DT4, DT what was Renata?
DT4, DT3. Yeah.
DT3. I can't remember if it was 2 or 3. But then it just goes straight, like, curveball. DT2, Nomad 4. Like, what are we doing here?
Nomad 3, though, that makes sense. Nomad 3 makes sense. From there, they start winning their picks. So,
also, shoutouts this freaking Germany big black score.
Oh,
winning by 1.2 million to close out the match with Whitecat FC and Kriller, like the 1100 plus combo, and Okinawa 1K plus combo with Hidden. Nuts team score.
Yeah. So that brings us to the last close match of the week, and the best match of the quarterfinals, and probably the best match of the tournament so far. It was one you might not have known about or watched because the only tiebreaker of quarterfinals was not even streamed on an official channel. Bubbleman and I were watch partying OWC on Saturday and noticed that this triple overlap would happen, and we were like, "Oh shit, that sucks." And Bubble was like, "Hey, why don't you just stream it? Why don't we just stream it instead?" And I was like, "Yeah, let's just stream it." So they drew the short straw of not being streamed, on an official channel, and so I got the stream set up on my channel instead, and we streamed it there. It made sense, the decision to not stream it, because we had Russia versus Germany and Norway China at the same time, which were seed 4-5 in winners bracket and seed 12-13 in losers bracket. So you don't expect seed 9-22 to be as close, but things don't always go as they are, as they maybe on paper should. Ukraine and Philippines were teams with very similar strengths coming into this match. A lot of them, both of these teams really like to pick the mechanics picks a lot of times, but there are different weaknesses for both of these teams, and that similar strength ended up defining a lot of the back and forth in this match. Philippines opened with DT3, Ukraine takes it as a break point, and then consolidates with DT1 afterwards, so 2 DT speed aim hybrid picks gone to Ukraine. Philippines then switches gears to Nomad 4, but Ukraine wins that as well. So they start off 3-0 as seed 22 versus 9, which is an insane start to this match, right? Seed 22 going for top 12 is up 3-0 to start the match. And Ukraine had 3 scores above 700K on that Nomad 4, which is a really, really good scoreline. And then Philippines takes 3 in a row. Ukraine picked Fremod 2, which on paper makes sense, right? They've won the 2 speed maps, but this is Nomad and Hard Rock and Hidden speed, not DT speed. So Philippines wins that. Philippines then picks and wins Hidden 2, with Ramu getting 905,000 score on that. And then Ukraine picks Hard Rock 2 and loses that also because Zone Louise gets 99 AC and 840K on the Hard Rock 2 CS 7.8, which was a wild score. Another 2 super close breakpoints followed on Hidden 3 and Nomad 2, with like 200,000 score difference on both maps. So they're 4-4 after that. And then both teams just win their own picks to end things off. Philippines picks Nomad 5, so the AR5 reading pick, and Ukraine picks Hard Rock 3, which had, I think, the highest score gap of the entire match to that point. So Ukraine very, very comfortable in the Hard Rock 3. We finally go to tiebreaker. Philippines and Ukraine. Again, both of these teams had lost key players from the year before, so I think there's a lot of things to prove for these rosters. Enri and Yok are gone from Philippines. Dench is gone from Ukraine. So repeating, which Ukraine has already done in top 16, or going beyond their final placement last year, would kind of show that they can hold their own regardless of roster changes. So Philippines and Ukraine, they load into Whiteout, and it ends up being a battle of carry players. Nathan Ram and Raf GPO both find big combos at different points. Nathan Ram FCing basically the first half of the map, but Raf GPO actually top scoring the map. Unfortunately, not carrying hard enough because he, I think, under-aimed a small jump that had this kind of small spacing into super huge spacing right afterwards, so anticipated the big jump afterwards, didn't aim it correctly on that pattern, and Philippines ends up winning in a super close scoreline, 56K on tiebreaker. So Ukraine, second year in a row, they get top 16, and they're only 56K away from a top 12 finish, which is awesome. And for Philippines, they get top 12 for the second time in their team's history. They got top 6 last year, which I think a lot of people are probably going to be skeptical of them finishing top 6 again this year. But I think it's a solid result for both of these teams, even with the loss for Ukraine. They still match their placement last year, and they overperformed their seeding by a round. So pretty solid for both of these teams on that match. And it was a very, very good match. You could go into even more detail about the pick strategy for both teams during this. It was a very, very good match. So definitely worth watching back if you have the time for it.
And some insider info on this match that actually makes Ukraine's run on this weekend even more impressive is that Magneta DM'd me at 8 in the morning my time on Saturday before their Brazil match, saying that they had no team scores on the sheet except for Raf GPO. He was the only guy who put in the practice, and then there were like 5 scores otherwise. And that prompted me to change my pick'em to Brazil for that match. So I'd like to extend my my warmest and most loving middle finger to Magneta.
Yeah.
But otherwise, like, Ukraine doing that, taking Philippines to the brink on like not too much practice going into the weekend, that's even more impressive. Like, they're just a really talented group, and if Dench comes back next year somehow, I mean, I heard he quit the game, but if he were to come back, I would put this team down as potentially being candidates to get into maybe top 12 with a good bracket, top 16.
Yeah.
again for sure.
Yeah, this is the storyline of like both of these teams, because I think this was like any result to that match was like good for both teams, right? Because for Philippines winning, it's like we showed that we can still do well without our two biggest carry players from last year. Ukraine winning this would have been a bonus, but just getting to this round is like already overperforming expectations. So
Yeah.
this was like such a win-win situation, I think, for these teams, and they both just, I mean, they left it all. They left it all out on the court, you know.
Yep. So that unless anyone else has anything to say about Philippines Ukraine, because I'm good. I've said my piece. That'll do it for the kind of interesting matches that we wanted to talk about. We'll go through the teams that got eliminated in quarterfinals. We saw Japan get eliminated in top 24. They were seed number 20, so expected result. They got beaten by Chile 6-2. France, of course, eliminated by Philippines, seed 14 in top 24. So that is an underperformance for France, unfortunately. We can talk about France a little later. I'll go through the rest of the teams for now. Indonesia, also in top 24. They were seed 18, so that is where they're expected to lose. Taiwan, seed 25, eliminated by Turkey, seed 19, so ends up with an overperformance for both Taiwan and Turkey with that result. Finland, eliminated by China. Again, they're seed 23, so not surprising. Thailand, seed 21, eliminated by Sweden 6-1. So again, not surprising. That's their expected place to lose. Brazil, seed 17. That is technically their expected outcome. But they were able to beat Romania, so they had that slightly better bracket going into the losers bracket this weekend. It was an upset victory for Ukraine. Romania eliminated by Poland. Unfortunate bracket for Romania. Poland is a very, very tough opponent in this losers bracket. And then, of course, the potential matches. Chile eliminating Sweden 6-1. So Sweden is out in top 16. Chile is into the top 12. Philippines eliminating Ukraine 6-5. So Ukraine is out top 16, overperforming their seeding. And Philippines is top 12. China eliminating Norway 6-0. That was a somewhat surprising outcome just because of the score line. I think a lot of people probably expected China to win, but Norway losing 6-0 is a bit of a surprising score line. Norway was 12th seed. China was 13th seed. So on paper, an upset. Norway underperformed their seeding by 1. China outperform by 1. And then the last losers bracket match of the weekend, Poland versus Turkey. Poland eliminates Turkey 6-0. Turkey outperformed their seeding. They get top 16. This is a year where Turkey finished in a higher placement than Romania, in a higher placement than Brazil, and had a generally also finished higher than Indonesia, finished higher than France. Had a very, very good World Cup for Turkey this year.
I think there's like a few different kind of tiers of teams. And like I said at the start, right? Like quarterfinals is a really big week. You go, top 24, top 16, top 12, depending on where you finish. And, we proved that qualifiers did their job, I think. The top 12 teams are seeds 1 through 11 and seed 13. Like qualifiers working out pretty well here. No crazy major upsets. But I think so. There's the teams that like overperformed expectations. Turkey. I'm kind of surprised they didn't get a single point against Poland, but still 19 seed getting top 12, good for them.
Or top 16, but still, yeah.
Top 16 team, 19 seed getting top 16.
Yes.
Right. Anyway, well done on that. Ukraine. I don't even know, like the fact that Brazil was the 17 seed and Ukraine was the 22 seed, like that feels so backward, right? Like it's just really bizarre to me. Because this Brazil team, it has like one player that anyone has ever heard of before. I have a couple of the kind of question marks for me coming out of this. First of all, the France thing has been done to death, but like for God's sake, France, please get your shit together. Like, you come in as a top 16 team every year. You see, in the last 5 years, you've seeded 14, 15, 8, 10, 7, and you've lost to a lower seeded team than you all but one of those years. You've lost to a lower seeded team every one of those years in winners, and you've been eliminated by a lower seeded team than you in 3 of those 5 years. And a similar seed with 7 versus 8 in 2022. Like, you just got to be better, man. Just like you've had Poon, you've had Musty, you've had Phils, you've had Vroomsy, Vivite, you've had Akori, you've had Hifkill, you've had Justman. Like Francis has had so many good players, and they can't stop losing to teams that they should be beating. Year in and year out, it doesn't stop, and it's exhausting because we keep talking about it every year, and they don't change anything. They keep bringing back half the same roster, and they keep having the same approach, and they keep losing. And it's like, guys, bring back Mize JD, maybe bring back FA, and just get rid of fucking everyone else. I'm sorry. Just bring in a new roster, burn it to the ground, go through a rebuilding year, be the 76ers, trust the process. I don't care. Put your 5 WC team in OWC or something. If that's
Oh my god.
Clearly, clearly what you're doing is not working.
Aaron, stop. This is not the Sicko Cast.
This is not the Sicko podcast.
This is not the Sicko
We're not on
Cast.
the Sicko committee yet.
This is not NFL football.
no.
This is not NFL football. We can't be burning shit to the ground
This
yet.
is not around the horn.
Around the horn
Oh
is,
my
around the horn
God.
is ending. I'm so sad. I'm so sad.
Welcome
It
to
has
Full
been like
Sicko.
20 years,
Thank you,
and it's
Shiba.
ending. It's depressing.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with you. It's just like, there's just something wrong. Like, I don't know what it is. They just need a new approach.
Yeah, there's
But-
polite ways to say that, but at the end of the day, we're saying the same shit. Like, just fix it, bro. Just change something, because it does feel like they do the same thing every year, or close to the same thing every year, and then just don't have a solid team. To me, it feels like they've lost their identity. Like, France used to be a team that was completely feared on anything reading or hidden, and it feels like that's not the case this year anymore. Like, teams are beating them. They are still, of course, a very good super low AR reading team. Like, they got the best score of the weekend on Nomad 5, but it feels like a lot of that doesn't matter anymore, and more so it feels like that doesn't translate to other adjacent skill sets close to that reading density kind of thing, right? And there's a lot of adjacent skill sets. There's tons of aim control. There's the hidden one density. There's free mod density in this pool, right? And it feels like France isn't able to take advantage of those things, and because of that, they lose. And it feels bad. Feels bad, man.
Okay, I have 3 teams I want to shout out that got eliminated this weekend.
I want to see if we have. I want to see if we have stuff in common, because I had a couple other teams I was thinking about from the eliminated roster. So,
shout outs.
Here.
I'm mostly talking about this in relation to like my original predictions. I want to shout out Taiwan. I did not know a single one of their players really, other than Willie and Imakura and Neko Kamui coming into the tournament, and they put up fights. They beat some good teams. They overperformed, I think, everybody's expectations. So, shout outs Taiwan. Shout outs to Brazil. Same kind of deal. I think Izzy was a revelation for them, even though people came into this, like, if you're a tourney head, you probably only really knew Corian Maluko on that team, or at least I did, and I feel like I'm a tourney head. But Izzy showed up, played a lot of maps for Brazil, played really well on a lot of them. So shout outs Brazil, and shout outs Turkey as well.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Turkey was a little bit less sleeper this year. They've kind of been on the up and up for a while now. But really, I think, like, they kind of stuck their identity in the stand here. Like, Raikaho is that guy. They have the supporting players for him as well on his skill set. So they're going to be a really scary early stage mechanics team, I think, for years to come, as long as these players keep playing.
Yeah, I had similar shout outs. I had Taiwan DNQ in original predictions.
Right,
so,
same.
Yeah, good shit Taiwan. They made top 24. That's a banger roster. Turkey definitely needs a shout out. I had them top 24, and even that was seen as like kind of high, and they made top 16. So fuck the haters. Turkey is good.
Raikoho is that dude, and Clutch is that dude, and Shihiro is that
double
dude.
clutch.
Yeah. And then I think the other big shout out for me is probably, I don't know, Sweden exited about where I expect them to. Unfortunate, sad shout out for Norway in the top 12. I had both Norway and China in top 12 before the tournament started, and then they faced each other. That happened with like 3 or 4 different matches, by the way. I had Brazil and Romania in the same tier before they started, before the tournament started. They both faced each other. I had Brazil and Ukraine in the same tier before the tournament started. They both faced each other. I had Finland and Spain in the same tier before the tournament started. They faced each other for elimination. I'm like, what? I had China and Norway in the same tier and they faced each other
Oh
for
my
elimination.
God, bro.
It's like, what is happening? What is happening? So sad elimination for Norway. I feel like this was their best chance at a breakthrough placement. They did get top 16. It's better than usual, but it's not that much better, which is kind of sad.
The Norway-China thing is so weird to me, and like there's insider information on what may have happened there, but I think it was pretty evident from watching the match that Norway just looked like they kind of crashed out. I had really high hopes for Norway this year, and like I guess they matched their seeding, so like technically speaking,
they did not.
Fine.
They were seed 12.
Oh no,
and
they got one.
They got one
behind
one
their
below.
Seeding, yeah.
Yeah.
They were, but it's like they were against the 13 seed, so it's like, but I'm sorry, like that team shouldn't be losing 6-0 to China.
Yeah.
Like it just shouldn't be. You have too many players that are too good, and like you have Ninrik on this roster who like should be good enough for a point on his own. I don't know. I had high hopes for Norway. I thought they were top 12, fringe top 8 if they got a really good bracket. And I guess I unfortunately overestimated them a little bit. But I think this match was like a sign that they need to maybe work on some mental approach. And also, on the other side of that same match, China, like, I just
China's
do this crap
beast.
every year, man. Freaking China.
Every year
so
China
good.
does this.
Yeah.
Like we're never doubting like Crystal or any Lolos ever again.
Yeah, China. There's not enough good things you can say about this China team, right? Like they're one of the most consistent rosters. They have one of the best core rosters that allows them to build around that core very easily during tryouts and when looking at tourney performances through the year. They're super consistent because of that in lots of matches. They're just really good. Congrats, of course, to the teams who made it through the losers bracket gauntlet, right? Chile, Philippines, China, and Poland. And that I think we should probably go ahead and move on to the predictions. Any final thoughts before we do that, gentlemen?
None of these teams are super surprising to see get through. Well, a couple of these teams are not surprising to see get through. A couple of them are. So it's really an interesting sort of split week, right? Where like Chile top 12, no surprise. Philippines top 12, kind of surprise. Poland top 12, on the edge of surprise. China top 12, not surprising. Beating Norway 6-0, surprising. So I don't know. It's better than it looks on paper if all you do is look at these scores.
I'm really happy for Poland, I will just say, because they kind of had that same effect as like Philippines and Ukraine this year, where they miss some of their top players. Everyone's like, oh, they might be dead, but who knew they had so much depth in their country, in their tourney skill, that they were able to get top 12 without Malashevsky or Nahus. So really good stuff with Poland, and we'll see if they can go even further.
We'll see if they can. For that, we're going to move into predictions, and we're going to start off with the match in the losers bracket between Hong Kong and Chile. And for this prediction, we are joined by Sad Shiba and Shiv. Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Hi guys.
Evening for me.
Back.
It's very late.
Yeah.
Good morning.
Yeah. So this is a tough match to predict. This is seed 7 versus seed 8, right? Hong Kong seed 8, Chile seed 7. One of the things for this match, and I'll just start. I don't know who, but I'll go with Chile for the bit because why not? This is a match that has a pretty good pool for Hong Kong. There's a lot of still aim control stuff here, but I think there's enough secondary tapping in this pool that Chile will have picks, right? You have stuff like a lot of the DTs have very much secondary tapping, including the DT1 that Hong Kong would usually like to pick into for the aim pick. You have a lot of secondary tapping in some of the other pools, like the Hard Rock 3, which is actually primary tapping. The Hidden 3 is 200 BPM finger control, somewhat high. The Nomad 1 is 220 BPM aim stamina. That map is way more stamina intensive than it appears at first. The 200 BPM Nomad 2 sure isn't super stamina intensive, but is still probably good for Chile. I think there's enough picks for them in this pool that they're generally favored on that I think they should have a solid time with this. So I'm going to go Chile, and I'll say 6-4 though, because there's still a lot of very good picks for Hong Kong as well, right? You have a lot of tech, a lot of aim control, stuff like Lovely Ice Cream Princess, Sweetie, Nomad 5 as well in this pool. So there's definitely a lot of picks for both teams, but I think generally Chile should be able to find enough good picks that I favor them a little bit on this pool, especially because based on the semifinals last year, and with how well the supporting members of Chile showed they can scale into semifinals last year, it feels like their roster depth is just a little bit better than Hong Kong's. Who wants to go next?
Who's pitching in?
I
I'm
have
just
stuff
gonna-
I want to say.
Oh, Miles has stuff he wants to
Oh,
say.
no,
All
let's
right.
go in order. Let's go in order.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, makes sense.
I have Hong Kong in this matchup, and it's not a decision I made easily. But Chile has been a team with some ups and downs already so far this tournament that are just kind of strange to me, and like I guess it just means I end up having kind of a hard time trusting them. And like, sure, Hong Kong lost 6-0 to South Korea, but South Korea is literally Hong Kong but better. Whereas in this matchup, they actually have very different skill sets. And looking at like compared scores from last week, sure, Chile will win the speed stuff, but Hong Kong just double bans speed. And then I feel like a lot of the other picks that are likely to come up in this match are, toss up or can go Hong Kong. And it's going to be, I think, a pretty close one because, like Dio said, there are still some good Chile maps. But I think for my taste, there are more than adequate Hong Kong maps in this pool. Once you get, whatever 2 maps out of Hard Rock 3 and then the 4 DTs, whatever 2 of those get banned and then the remaining ones get picked. Once you get through that stuff, I think the pool is a lot less crystallized for Chile. And I think Hong Kong wins a lot of the toss-up maps that would remain towards the end of a match. So I think with Suagi, with MCY4, with Misha Awa, I think Hong Kong has a roster that's built to succeed on this particular pool, especially. And I think they win it. It's 1 break point, so it's like 6-3, 6-4. Could even go tiebreaker, at which point it's a complete coin flip. But I'm going to say Hong Kong 6-4.
Match of the week, maybe controversial opinion.
It's going to be a good one.
Yeah,
there's like 4 matches of the week this week, though.
This one is mine, but this one is mine. Okay, so let me tell you, I feel like both of these teams have some very obvious picks coming out the gate. Chile is going to pick the high mechanics stuff like the HR3, DTs 1 through 3. Those are going to be gimme picks for Chile. But then Hong Kong, what they're good at. They're just like South Korea. They like to pick that tech. They like to pick that aim control. They like to pick ult. They have a lot of that in this map pool. But then once both teams kind of run out of those cores, I see a situation where we're probably going to be at a point where it's 3-3, and both teams are going to be picking maps that the other team is very capable of winning. So where I see the first half of this match is going to be completely black and white, but then it's going to go into potentially breakpoint hell, where I think we have an opportunity for a lot of chaos to happen. And I think coming out of the breach, I just trust the top players of Hong Kong a little bit more. I trust Suagi and MCY to pull through when it matters. They are very proven in this sort of scenario. Meanwhile, Chile, as Aaron said, had their ups and downs this tournament. And I know Suntan has been playing really well, and so has Matthew. I think they're going to need intercamping to really show up this year, or show up in this match to the level that we expected from him last year, if they want to take this match. But I have Hong Kong in tiebreaker, because this is an aim tiebreaker. And Hong Kong on an aim tiebreaker, like, ugh.
This guy does not trust the intercamping method.
The intercamping method.
I mean, yeah, I'm in a similar boat. I really struggle to believe in Chile, considering how inconsistent and shaky that they've looked for throughout this entire bracket stage of the World Cup. It always feels like 1 week they have one player who's really playing badly, another one who's really acting up, and then the next week it's vice versa, but with different players around through and through. And I think I actually, without looking at the pool, without knowing what was in the pool, I initially called this to actually be quite a one-sided win for Hong Kong. But upon looking at the pool, my mind isn't really changed. I'm still confident that I think Hong Kong will take it, but I personally don't think it's going to be as close. I feel like there's a lot of clashes on a lot of these maps that generally Hong Kong can take quite a bit of. Considering that you have the DT double bans, you can just have Hong Kong most likely get rid of DT3, DT2. If it isn't DT2, probably Hard Rock 3. And that's Chile essentially just guaranteeing themselves 1, maybe 2 points. But generally, like the No Mod 2, it's not too difficult of a BPM for Hong Kong to overtake for the most part. And most of the other maps here seem pretty even if not Hong Kong favored. So I initially called this in my pick'ems to be 6-3, and I probably am the most comfortable calling that scoreline in particular. It's so hard. It's so hard to see Chile just look so inconsistent when I think, last year it seemed like the complete opposite. It seemed like they were really reliable and almost able to get really good scores on a regular basis. So it's a little painful to see. Granted, if they pop off and bring back that skill that we saw last year, this is going to be incredibly close, if not Chile winning. But I don't think it's going to happen. I think Hong Kong are going to take it 6-3.
Kevin, help! I'm getting ganked by Chile doubters.
I got you, bro. I got you. I'm actually surprised. Before I even saw the predictions, I thought it was gonna be everyone predicting Chile, and I was gonna have to be the sole guy to predict Hong Kong to win. I mean, like,
Dio on the panel. You think that's
Yeah,
off of the fact that, like, I thought that, like, it's I actually thought it's very clear to me that I think Chile is much stronger here. There's a couple reasons why. I think firstly, Tsuwagi and MCY4 are really good. I think both Inner Camping and Maffy have the potential to match them on a good day. I think these guys are super strong players, and there are a lot of maps in the pool that really favor them. This is probably the most speed-heavy pool, surprisingly, despite people calling it an escape pool, because there's even more speed. Nomad 2 is a stream map. Hard Rock 3 is stamina. DT2 is finger control. DT3 is speed. DT1 is aim and speed. There's a lot of options for Chile to really punish, the slower players in Hong Kong. Secondly, the secondary players on Chile, I think, are just much stronger now. Hong Kong really just has Misha Awa and maybe like Stalak and Tommy 315, but pretty much everyone else like Hibiki, Kagusume, and Max Biro are pretty much outscaled on like a 7.6 star pool. Meanwhile, Suntan is going to be even scarier on this pool. You got players like NO37 who always look good on what they do. Nekora has been having a super sleeper tournament as well. This guy has been playing super well. He top scored Wing My Way, I believe, last week. And like players like Chalk Gamer, Alfew, Gonza, these guys are also not to be like underestimated. So I'm actually pretty confident that Chile is winning this match. I feel like Hong Kong has the potential to definitely take points, but when it comes to roster depth and skill cap, I think Chile win in both regards. The only case where I think Hong Kong would beat Chile is if the pool is actually too hard for Inakamin and Maffy, with like Tsuwagi and MCY4 are just straight up going to beat them. But if both of these players lock in, I'm going with Chile.
All right. Well, there's your screen cap, and actually I messed this one up too. Hold on.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There we go. That's a little better.
I don't know. I think this match like just goes either way, right? Like I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say either way, just because of how much aim control alt stuff is in the pool, it feels like that just plays into the specializations of like Hong Kong's best players more than Chile's. But
they don't know about the Nomad 1 speed stamina pick this week. All right.
It's not even stamina, bro. It's just.
Have you played the map? Have you played the map?
No, it's actually stamina draining. I do want to say
it is stamina, but
I do want to say real quick, like Hong Kong's actually like underrated on Nomad 2 specifically.
On like, this map, I think they're good. Yes,
I know they're bad at. I know they're bad at speed, but they're actually fine at like just basic stamina flow Nomad 2s, which is exactly what this map is.
Yeah. All right. Let's go on to the next match, which is going to be Russia versus Poland. Oh, excuse me. And let's start it off from the other end this time around. Let's start it off with Kevin.
It's bad news because I was talking to Tomas Chick like a bit earlier ago, and since like I think everyone else is gonna put Russia. I'm just gonna gas at this Poland roster. I think that these guys are super underrated. So all of my pick'ems might say something else later. Let's pretend right now that I'm going with Poland. Let's hype up some of these players. You have like Vistel 2 and Kosiarek playing super well this tournament. You have Tomaszczyk, who's been having a phenomenal run, really developed tournament player overall. And you still have players like Rafis, like Shizdis, Tardis. All these guys are going to be doing super well on this, speedier, heavy pool. I feel like on the tapping consistency, Poland definitely is going to have to tap into that to beat Russia, because Russia kind of dominates on most of these alt tech and reading picks in the Poland. So it's going to be really tight. I think if they can make it the tiebreaker, I still think Poland has it in them to really dominate. So I'm going to go with them. Although maybe my pick'ems might say something else.
He's having fun out here.
Yeah.
No, I respect your enthusiasm, Shiv. I looked at the I was streaming doing my pick'ems earlier today, and I was actually really impressed by looking at generally what Poland had to offer. Um, their new rookie players, usually you'd hold the question of, and most of the time the rookie players would often come from lower tier tournament scenes, right? Not necessarily the absolute highest. And I think that was the impression that some people have with the Poland team. And them being outscaled would have been a valid argument, but in quarterfinals they did really, really well, particularly the newcomers on some of the maps that we didn't expect too much from. So Poland definitely are stepping up with their newcomers. It just goes to show, man, like literally any Polish OWC team has potential to do something. But I am still gonna stand my ground with how I feel. I think Russia are still gonna be the more consistent mechanics team. I think they're still gonna be the stronger hard rock team, and that's pretty tough considering how good Poland are on both of those strengths. Yeah, I still feel like Russia outshined them. Both Chaconi and Welter were higher than the next highest Polish player in Tomaszek. And that just in and of itself kind of shows me that there's a lot more individual star power at a consistent level for Russia. And all of the other skill sets that are not clashes are generally Russia favored, but that doesn't change the fact that Poland are still going to be really solid, and I think it's going to be a good fight. I'm calling Russia 6-3, and yeah, I'd still think that's a reasonable one for me. I don't think it's generous or too doubtful on either side.
Okay, I have only two things to say about this matchup. And one is that the drama between these two countries right now with the snipe war, it adds so much fuel to this matchup. Because even
That's
though
true.
Malashevsky is not playing, like I heard about it. It escalated. It started out with like who was it? Okay. Someone was sniping Welter's number ones.
Yeah, it was
and
some of the people on the Polish OWC team. I don't remember who.
Wait,
But
I can look what you guys are talking about it. Hold
yeah,
on.
they sniped Welter, and then they started sniping back the Polish players, and like Chaconi got involved, and then like the Polish people got Malashevsky involved, and Malashevsky
That's
just sniped
cheating.
like 70
That's
of Welter's
cheating.
number ones, and it's like it adds so much fuel to this match. I feel like that's something you don't get in any tournament other than OWC. You have these like dramas between countries. So even though I think Russia probably wins this match very definitively, like Poland, they have the chip on their shoulder. And even like you look at the statistics, Poland won 3 maps comparatively to Russia last week, albeit it's the Big Black, which has no comparison in this map pool. It's Empyrean, Hard Rock 2, which has no comparison in this map pool. And it's the Nomad 4 by like 20k. So, like, that's not really much you can take out of that. But Poland, like, if we're going to talk about them being so strong, let's see them give Russia a run for their money in this matchup. But still, I think on paper, Russia, they look great against Germany, even though they lost. And they're going to look great against Poland to try and strike their ticket into the finals weekend, maybe.
Just to add one thing, Malice and Nahus sniped so many of Walter's scores that I cannot actually go down to see who started it.
Oh my god.
That goes to show how fucked up Malice and Nahus are. It was mostly Malice, but Nahus also joined in on some of the scores. I'm just saying, bro, like, it's a little bit of an L from Poland when you think about it, As soon as Walter starts fighting back, they'd be like, yo, Risto, dude, this guy's fighting and we don't know what to do. Can you, like, come in? Because, you're, like, the best player and you're, like, the best tournament player in the world right now and you, like, get number ones all the time.
Yeah.
And, Magic's like, hello, bro. Yes, of course. And then he goes snipes. He's not even on the team. He's not even going to make an impact. So I'm telling you right now, L from Poland. Respect to Welter, bro. He fought back and then they had to call Malashevsky. That's Poland's loss, in my opinion. But, but yeah.
So I think there's a world, that all aside, because it's not actually relevant to the match itself. It's just funny ongoing.
Yeah.
I think there's a world where this match is like sneaky close. If you like Miles was talking about looking at the maps in common from last week, like there are a couple that Poland is winning, right? And for all the talk of, well, Russia played really well despite the loss, Poland apparently played even better. Lest we forget, they literally went 12-0 on the week, right? Poland did not drop a map in their 2 matches last weekend. I don't care who you're playing. That's a pretty impressive streak. So yeah, this roster already, I think, outperforming people's expectations with having lost the players that they lost from last year. So I think this is not the sort of runaway one-sided affair you might expect it to be. The biggest question for me And the biggest thing that I really don't know, just for lack of knowing several of the new Polish players this year, I don't know what their skill cap is going to look like coming into a semifinals pool that's pretty hard. Some of these players that were performing really well for them in quarterfinals, we haven't seen in OWC before. We haven't seen in like these late stage situations before. So that's going to be a big question mark for me. Whereas Russia, I mean, you've got a lot of established names on that roster who have been doing this year in and year out. And yeah, they don't often, get top 6 in OWC, but they're still seeing these semifinals pools. And we've seen what they're capable of on late round pools in a lot of different tournaments. So for me, it is Russia favored, and I will pick Russia, and I do think it's again, it's like a break point, maybe two, somewhere between 6-2, 6-4. But I think people who think that Russia is just going to come out and stomp this match, I think might be surprised by what Poland is capable of, even if they do end up losing. I think they will make this a closer fight than I think some people out there will be assuming going in.
Yeah, I have pretty much the same opinion, so I'm not going to waste too much time. I have Russia. I think I have them, like, I'll check my pick'ems. I have them 6-2, but I think that Poland will make a lot of these maps close on the score line rather than making the score line of the match itself relatively close. Poland can compete on Hard Rock. They have a little bit of an advantage on Hidden. They can compete on some DTs, but not stuff like DT4. They can compete on Nomad aim and some of the like Nomad tech stuff as well. So there's places where they can compete, but there's not a place where they have like a really big on paper advantage against Russia. And I think that's the big thing that makes this really Russia favored for me, is that while yes, Poland can take points, do they have an area of the pool where they are straight up heavily favored? Not really. Maybe you go into like tech maps and Nomad and Hidden. But aside from that, Russia is just too well-rounded to have all that many weaknesses, right? You don't qualify in as seed number 4 with a bunch of big weaknesses in your roster. So they are just a very well-rounded team. And same thing as Aaron said, the skill cap for Russia is tested. Now, that said, this is a roster that historically struggles to get above semifinals weekend. So they're not quite as strong in terms of the skill cap in OWC as a lot of the other higher seeded teams like seed number 4 usually is. But they are still a team that I think will have better scaling this weekend than Poland. And with how difficult the map pool got, I think that matters a lot. Again, I'll also point out Nomad 1 is just straight up a stamina map that is also an aim map at the same time. And so there's a lot of other like secondary tapping in this pool. The Nomad 1, the Nomad 2 has some as well. The Hidden 3 has some. The Hard Rock 3 is just a stamina map. The DT pool is pretty much all tapping. There are, tech elements, finger control elements, density elements, burst speed elements, alt elements, but it's all tapping. It's all high BPM. And I think that's really good for a team like Russia that historically is very, very strong on those higher BPM picks. So that is my prediction there. And that means that we are going on to the next match overall, which is going to be the winner, the projected winner of this match versus the projected winner of the last match we talked about. In this case, that's going to be Russia versus Hong Kong. So I will start us out here, and what are my pick'ems actually? I have, we talk about Russia and the historic wall that they have in semifinals. I think this is the year they finally make it out of ELO hell. I think this is the year they finally make it into the semifinals. And I think A, the pool construction helps. B, just their performance overall through last weekend helps. Stuff like gimmick Hard Rock, like the Hard Rock 3 from last week. Russia outscored Hong Kong by 800K. Russia outscored Hong Kong by another almost 300K on the DT4. There's not a single of those two head-to-heads. That's the only two head-to-heads, by the way, from last weekend. And then from there, you can look at round of 16, you can look at round of 32, but those don't really matter when you're talking about semifinals. And of course, in qualifiers, Russia is just the better team through the qualifiers. Hong Kong will have the hiddens. They will have picks in this match. So I do think this can be somewhat close, but with Russia being able to, most importantly, double ban Hidden against Hong Kong this weekend, because of the rule change from last year, you can now double ban the same mod pool. So Russia, they can just double ban the Hiddens against Hong Kong and be pretty much fine. Just leave up the one that they are most comfortable with. Probably something like either the Hidden, actually the Hidden 2 might be the most accessible Hidden this week. Kind of weird to say. But they might be able to leave up that Hidden 2 and just have players like Markram go in and do work for them. And then the rest of the pool, I think, is just pretty solid for Russia. Yes, there's a lot of aim control in the free mod pool, but outside of that, a lot of these other picks in No Mod, in Hard Rock, and DT are very, very good for Russia, and I think it'll work well for them. And I think, again, yes, you have these two very, very good late round scaling players in MCY4 and Suwagi on the side of Hong Kong, but Russia has players to match, and I think the rest of their roster scales better.
I fully agree. I think, if there's anybody that can stop Russia's chances of getting into finals, it's Poland. With all due respect to Hong Kong, not only is, I think the argument that Shiv had for Chile taking down Hong Kong, I present the same argument with Russia into Hong Kong. I feel like with the matchup against Chile, it's in my opinion, at least, like a bit even grounds. But this time, like the supporting players that Russia have alongside Chaconi, Welter, and Squirrel are very, very potent. I mean, Dasuk, you can even count as that 4th star player. You know what I mean? Like Russia have so many flexible players, and even then, like Hidden isn't actually that weak of a Russia option if you really wanted to do so, right? You could probably ban more of the reading heavy ones if you wanted to, but again, you have Markram, you have Squirrel. People say that Chaconi doesn't really like Hidden, but there has been occasions where Chaconi has been really good on lower Shayar/awkward Hidden. Like there are moments where he can do really good on it. So especially with this Hidden 2 coming up, like Dio said, it's very accessible for players who at least have a kind of a borderline borderline understanding of how to play Hidden, right? So yeah, I've put it actually to be a bit more one-sided. I've put 6-1 for Russia in my pick'ems. Suwagi and MCY4 might do some matchup, particularly in free mod. I think free mod's probably Hong Kong's best chance, but even then, it's a tough ask, right? Russia have a broken free mod team. It's very much something that Hong Kong have to focus on what they're good at to take this one. But I think Russia are going to break away from Elo Hao, I believe.
Okay, I have a bit of a funny opinion about this one. So this is the potential match, right?
Yep.
This is Russia beating Poland. This is Hong Kong beating Chile. If Hong Kong can beat Chile, I think they could also potentially do away with Russia. So I'll break away from the group here. I'll say Hong Kong can take this to TB if they can do that to Chile. Unless Chile just completely low rolls against everybody's expectations and we don't really get to see a proven Hong Kong. But if Hong Kong can beat Chile, then that proves that potentially their backing players aren't as skill capped as maybe we would have predicted. That could prove that Suwagi and MCY4 are playing really good Osu on this round. And if they're able to do that, if they're able to stand their ground on the aim control maps this week, and the aim maps as well, then they could definitely force tiebreaker. And I'll say the same thing. I think that they'll be favored on this tiebreaker against Russia as well. A heavily aim mechanics focused tiebreaker is one that plays really well into the players on Hong Kong. I think even if you double ban, say, the Hidden 1 and the Hidden 3, Hong Kong can sweep the bottom half of the Nomad pool with Valdez, Void Crossing, and Ice Cream Princess Sweetie, while also winning that Hidden. And then they have so much stuff in the free mod pool as well that could go their way. So while I would say Russia beats Chile if Chile gets here, and while I do think, even if my pick'em says otherwise from what I'm talking about right now, even if you still favor Russia on a lot of maps, I think a full sweep on this cast saying Russia over Hong Kong is a little bit unfair to them in their history as a very strong tournament team in OWC year in and year out. And Russia, with a curse placed on them for this round, I wouldn't be all too surprised if Hong Kong were able to take this the distance or even win the match.
I got nothing to actually add here of value. I can't in good conscience pick Russia to get top 6, so I'm picking Hong Kong. I will take no further questions at this time.
Bro.
Understandable. Have a nice day.
A reason for that one. Usually
Can I pick Chile?
Can I pick Chile? I would also like to pick Chile, please. I would also like to pick Chile.
It's interesting because I actually said the same thing. Like I think Chile has a better chance against Russia than Hong Kong does, but
no way, really?
I also believe in like a perfect universe where everyone in Chile is playing at their peak. Yes. But like this is the same case of Russia where it's like um kind of have to be the bearer of bad news, but like Chaconi and Welta have been having a crazy performance this tournament. And like Scrao is kind of not even been playing that well, but if this guy plays well this stage, I don't even know what Hong Kong can do. Like it's really just half these players on Hong Kong can't play this SR. You're really just relying, okay, Tsuwagi and MCY4 need to FC every single map, and Tsuwagi's gonna be struggling a little bit on some of the speedier picks. Meanwhile, Chaconi, he doesn't FC, he's got Welta. Welta doesn't FC, he's got Scrabble. And players like Gamer Desk, these guys are always the wild cards. They can also FC most maps probably at this stage. Um, so I think I have to consciously go with Russia, and I think it's going to be like 60. I think if it was Chile, and I mean, like Matthew was looking super good, and you have Inner Cabin that's also been looking pretty good. Um, that could be more debatable with how Suntan and Nakori play. But for this matchup alone, definitely Russia for me.
Okay. That'll do it for this half of losers bracket. Actually, that is half of losers bracket. By the way, we only have
Oh,
two
no.
little sections of losers bracket. So predicted Russia top 6 barely. Predicted Russia top 6 just barely here. Let's go into the next half of losers bracket where we are going to get the UK versus Philippines. Shiba, why not? Start us off on this one.
Okay.
I already know what you're
Right.
voting, but start us
So
off.
listen. You can call me a hypocrite, all right? Because I feel like with all the love I have for the UK team, if I was to put this on paper, I wouldn't be able to call who'd win. I'd put it on our tiebreaker. But that is if I was looking at the rosters on paper without the context of how both teams have been playing. Canada have, despite losing to USA, performed really good. I think, like you guys mentioned in the recap of last week.
Sir, we're on UK Philippines, not Canada. Wait a second.
Oh, my bad. Damn, I already gave away my predictions. Aha, my bad. I
Yeah.
was too busy thinking about Canada against UK. Okay, so I guess now you've already been spoiled.
All right, there you go. UK over Philippines. Moving on.
So anyway,
okay, real quick. So what I was gonna say is that UK last week and the week before looked relatively shaky, not as consistent as I hoped they would be. Doesn't change the indescribable amount of potential the team has to do really, really well. Mahmood has done very good last week, so I'm expecting him to do well. The issue that I have with UK Philippines that I think is going to be a pretty convincing UK win is that the skill sets that Philippines would want to pick into in terms of comfort are probably the only skill sets that UK are regularly performing well on, i.e. aim mechanics, i.e. DT, IC tapping. All of those skills are the skills that I'd say UK are very consistently good on. Everything else, including like hit and the stuff, they've seemed a bit shaky on, and a little uncertain. But under the assumption that UK will not like tremendously fall apart, which I honestly don't think they will. I think they're going to be pretty comfy on this skill set, especially on this pool. I'm going to call a 6-2 win for UK. But my result between UK and Canada is very dependent on how well UK play against Philippines. But I'll get deeper into that later on.
T1G, your turn.
Yeah, honestly, this is weird for me because like I have like genuinely no sense for how good UK actually is. I don't know if I'm alone in that. Despite having watched like multiple of their matches, I have no clue how good this team is at all. That being said, just looking on paper at the scores compared between these two teams, they look like they should be a lot better. And I think at this stage of the tournament, just based on their roster construction, they should be a lot better. But it's like they lost 6-1 to Australia and looked really not particularly good. So like, but it's also Australia who are really good. So did UK not look good, or is Australia just that good? Somewhere in the middle? I don't know. I genuinely just don't know how good UK is. But that being said, I think they're better than Philippines. I think they win this match like 6-2, 6-3. I think Philippines, this is just kind of where this roster runs out. They have the trouble of like third, fourth player syndrome on a lot of maps, and I think UK will have a little bit more depth, just enough in this particular matchup to make it worth it.
Kevin, your turn. Let us know the news.
Guys, like, as much as I love like a lot of these players on Philippines, and I think Nathan Ram is like, he's like cookiesy. Like, I think UK's got this one off of a couple things. Firstly, this is really the stage where a lot of these Philippines players are just like, I would be surprised to see half of these players get like a 400k average on this pool. Like, it has just gotten so hard. Like, you're really relying on just Nathan Ram, Noctism, and Zone Luis. Maybe Ramu at his prime, but he hasn't touched the game that much. Actually, Paus has been playing pretty well. Xylaz has also been completely inactive, I think. So it's really difficult for me to really justify when you have players like last week, like the strongest players that UK underperformed. Schiazzo was dealing with some like energy drink stuff, so he couldn't play the game properly, and like
What energy drink stuff?
or maybe it was the week before. He talked about how one like he took like some like Monster Red Bull and he was like completely shaky the entire match. I can't. I
Yeah,
don't
that
know
was
if
the
it
week before.
was that
That was
week.
the week
It might have been
That was
the week before. Yeah, but
That kid, man.
like Mahmoud was the actual best player in UK by a long shot, and he was like probably people were even considering him not to be on the roster because they thought Plasma was gonna make it, right? So
Yeah, that was a lot of people predicted Plasma
yeah,
to be on the roster, but Mahmood
but
improved.
he's proved
a
himself.
fuck ton.
He's like he
Yeah.
definitely deserves to be on this roster.
Yeah.
And I think that, seeing your 7th, 8th pick play that phenomenal definitely has to be invigorating for a team that has as much charisma as UK. I feel like Bubble Man's gonna lock in this week. I think Schiazzo is gonna lock in this week. And I think that they don't really care that much about this match. They're looking definitely to the match like forward, right? Because that's the one that it's about proving the limits is that the UK is back. But for this one alone, I will go 6-1, 6-2.
All right, Miles.
I don't have too much to add. I think UK bounces back this week really hard. I think Philippines, they got challenged really hard by Ukraine in a way that I think a lot of people didn't expect them to. And a little of that you could credit to Ukraine playing really well, but I think a lot of that also has to be put on the fact that I don't think Philippines' depth is as good. And, they played really well this year in a year, no Hyuk, no Henry, but I think this is the end of the road. They're going to have to pull up some major miracles to beat this UK team.
Yeah, I have a very similar idea of how this match goes, and I think this is one of those matches where it is actually fair to have 5 people voting the same way on this match. So I am also going to vote UK. I just don't see a world where Philippines wins, unfortunately. They have good players on this team, but how good exactly is the question? And the answer is not good enough to look clean in quarterfinals losers bracket. When you are dropping a lot of points to France and going to tiebreaker versus Ukraine, Ukraine is a very solid team and France always shows that they have potential. They are nowhere near the level that UK is at, especially on a pool that is this much harder. I mean, this pool feels like it didn't scale like the usual quarter of a star rating or 0.3 star rating. Feels like it scaled like half a star between the rounds. This is way harder than quarterfinals. And that is to some extent intentional, right? Semifinals is now 12 instead of 24 teams that are playing this round, so it should be harder, and it is. And Philippines last year in semifinals had the same exact issue. We saw them getting 4th player syndrome, even with the 2 players who are not playing this year going in for every map alongside Nathan Ram. Milkteism has improved a lot, but we haven't seen that other kind of core roster come out. Ramu's been there for a lot of maps. Icarus has been there for a lot of maps, but the scaling question still very much exists, and I don't think they have it solved. Whereas for UK, they looked like they were underperforming a lot against Australia, and they still win every head-to-head aside from one when you look at the compared scores from Philippines. And that's not just like a couple of head-to-heads either, by the way. That is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different head-to-heads, 5 of them that they win. So even while I think low rolling a little bit for UK, they still have that big on paper advantage. So I got to go UK. And I don't think this is close. I think this is like 6-0 or 6-1. Sorry to be a bit of a negative Nancy there, but yeah, that is my prediction for this one. And that'll bring us into the other half of this losers bracket side, which is Canada versus China. Let's start juicing the players, shall we? I'll start us off for this one. You already know that I am voting Canada, so let's get that out of the way. But I think this match can still be a little close. What do I have for this one? I have 6-3. I think Canada will still scale better than China. I think China's big asset is that they have a very, very consistent roster that is strong at a lot of stuff and weak on very few things. Canada will be able to speed abuse this match, but they are not the speed team anymore, and so it's going to be a little bit more difficult to do that. That said, again, the skill cap matters a lot. China is another one of those teams where their supporting players do not match up in terms of scaling to the core roster, whereas for Canada, yeah, a lot of these new supporting players are a little untested, but a lot of them through the year have shown that they have that scaling, and so I favor them a little bit on that. At the same time, a lot of China's strengths, especially like hard rock, aim control, finger control stuff, Canada's also very, very strong on this year. So that point of abuse does not really exist for China in this match, and so I find it, I think, pretty Canada favored in this one. I do still think China will take points because they have enough consistency and enough really good players on their skill sets to still contest and take points against Canada. But I think Canada just has a pretty big advantage here.
So I came into this when I was trying to do my pick'ems for this matchup. I came into this thinking that this was going to be close because China just had that crazy week where they had the 6-0 over Norway and everything, and Canada lost 6-2 to USA. But what I realized was Canada just got really unlucky that they had to play the United States last week. Because they got the third best score of the week on Free Mod 2 and lost it. They got the second best score of the week on Free Mod 1 and lost it. They got what are some other maps? They got the third best score of the week on Hard Rock 1, did win that. They had the best score on Hidden 2 of the week. They had the fourth best score on Nomad 5 of the week and lost it. Like, Canada just got super unlucky to the way that they ended up losing to the United States, how close that match secretly was despite being 6-2. And then I looked through qualifiers and I saw like both of Canada's scores being better than either of China's scores on like 8 out of the 11 maps or something ridiculous like that. And I realized that this matchup is actually not close at all. And I really want it to be, because I like this China roster and it's super cool to see what they're capable of year in and year out. But just look at what these two teams have done so far this tournament. It's really hard for China in this matchup, unfortunately, just based on what they've both done. And I am picking Canada, and I want it to be closer than my pick'ems. I have like 6-2 in my pick'ems. I think there's a world where it's closer than that if Canada kind of slips up and China has a really good day. But based on the statistics we have, this shouldn't, operative word shouldn't, because we still have to play the match, but it shouldn't be close.
Yeah, and I think a lot of Canada just scales a lot better than the players on China, because we're starting to reach a point where unless you have like so many compared scores on like the quarterfinals pool, like the jump in the scaling has been way too high to use the previous statistics as like a way that really defines much. But still, just like going off of past experience, looking at all of these players in the rosters, knowing that one of the skill cap players on China who you would look to this week in Karumi has been like kind of MIA for a lot of this tournament, has not really been in the spotlight. That's just more of a reason why I think Canada is going to win this decisively. And once again, I don't think it's going to be close. Like China, Crystal is going to have his map because Crystal always has his map, but I'm going to say 6-1 because Canada, I feel like just across the board, scale a lot better in this China roster.
Yeah, I agree with everyone else. I feel like one thing that hasn't really been mentioned is the theme that with China. Although you look at the players a lot and you think that it's a set of really consistent players. I think the theme that I've noticed with China, especially with last week, was that even though they did very good against Norway, it kind of seemed like it was either going to be a 4-way of mid-tier scores or one really good score and 3 lower scores. At least that's what I'm kind of noticing with the theme here with China. And, you know, with the addition that the skill set matchup doesn't work against them very much, with the addition that Canada's skill cap has not only improved, but the map pool skill cap has also increased a lot, which isn't in favor of China. They are not really too high of a skill cap heavy team. You are really banking on Crystal and Milk Tea to really do some magic. I think the only maps that you can see China overtaking Canada on are in the Hard Rock maps and in potentially free mod, but that's with an emphasis of Crystal doing what Crystal does, Milk Tea being the peak of consistency, and David Coutu doing his work on hidden. And that's very difficult. It's very easy to say that that's an easy thing for China, but when you're against Canada, that's really hard to be confident in, right? You're really picking at straws here for China to do something that can give them a significant advantage. And with that being said, I don't really see a lot of opportunities for China to open up. I'm expecting, like Miles said, for Crystal to have his map, for one potential hard rock pick to be dominated. Maybe you could see 6-2 as a possibility with Milk Tea or David Q2 doing some crazy work, because I think those three players have really been the big shining stars here for China, at least in this OWC. But outside of that, man, Canada are so strong, and you know the scoreline with USA Canada absolutely didn't represent how scary this team can be. So I'm putting Canada to win 6-1 on my pick'ems, and I think I'm standing by that.
Well, as the Chinese Canadian,
Oh,
or the
shit.
diversity quota mark here. I think that
Oh no.
if you look at the quarterfinals results, there were 4 players in Canada that had a better performance than the first player in China. Like both, this is not even including Ryan. It was Franklin, Lily, or sorry, Cut Paper, Zudi, Nick, and Xylus all actually did really well in the stage, and we talked about it. This is where the tournament just gets so much harder, and I think in an ideal world where you have Kurumi at his peak, his round table level performance, I think China has a chance, but he just has not popped off at all this tournament besides one DT4 score last week where he was like, oh, I got a good score finally. Um, and you just kind of are really relying on Crystal, Milk Tea, and David to play 90% of the pool and FC every single map versus Canada, who has at least 6 players. We talked about those first 4, but Ryan or fucking Connor McDavid could still definitely pop off on this pool. And you have players like Dark Karate who are going to look super good on the more skill cap tech picks. And this is not even including Pikapom, who's also looked really good. Same with Sai, who I think these players compared to players like Midsi who haven't really shown up this tournament. Z numbers was okay. Dragon played 2 maps. I think he's just a speed fill, and Ludo Fox is also kind of just a filler player. But I just don't see the depth that this roster has at a 7.7, 7.6 star pool to really even challenge Canada on any picks at all. I was thinking about, so what does China pick?
Yeah. Yeah.
You pick aim, you lose. You pick speed. You definitely don't pick speed on this roster. You
Pick alt, you probably lose.
Precision?
Yeah, you have to pick precision into Zudinator.
Yeah, right.
And Dark Karate and
You have to
Ryukai.
just play with what you're good at, yeah.
Yeah, so you have to play what you're good at, but that's also what Canada's really good at.
Low-key
Especially-
DT4 is a good pick for China, but yeah.
Yeah, DT4 is a good pick. I think Canada's
Yeah,
gonna ban
okay.
it because
Yeah.
they don't have 10.5 players. But after that, it's just I don't know. You pick the super gimmicky stuff into cut paper. Good luck. Well, that's why I'm gonna go Canada 6-1. I think they might get 1 point off of a good kind of like a cheese pick.
Yeah. All right, so that'll do it for that part of the losers bracket. Now we're on to the very last match, which is the potential matchup between the winner of this match and the winner of the previous match we discussed, which are projected winners for both are Canada and the United Kingdom. So because it's Canada versus UK, we're going to start off with Kevin and then go to Shiba right afterwards. So have fun fighting in the corner. Kevin, start us off.
All right.
Yeah, so well, you guys already know what I'm about to say. You know how I was gassing up UK all the way a lot previously? Bad news, guys. I think that this UK roster is good, but I need to see again. I think that this Canada roster just has the better star players in retrospect. I think the UK actually might have better supporting players. I think on paper, players like Listia, Haunt, Malteser, Vudge. Vudge at this point, I don't even know if I can call him a supporting player, which is kind of crazy. I think they're all pretty good, but you need a player that's going to match Zudi. You need a player that's going to match Cut Paper. I don't know who's gonna do this on UK. I need to see some magic happen from Schiazzo for sure for him to pop off. But this pool has gone so hard where it's just like, I need to see some prime Bubble Man action. I still think the match is gonna be very close. I'm gonna go like 6-4 actually, or maybe even 6-5. But obviously since I'm Canadian, I'm gonna vote Canada, and I think that the roster looks really good.
Okay, first UK team, please don't watch this. I love this team so
His
much.
ass is picking China or
I
Canada.
want I want nothing more than the UK team to really do well. But to be completely honest, like as a UK fan, what happens between UK and Canada, in my opinion, hinges very much on how well UK do against Philippines. I feel like again, you look at this team on paper, if you don't look at the previous established results, I would have put UK to win. I would put UK to win. I think they are a stronger team. I think they are a stronger team on paper. I agree with what Shiv said, where although maybe the superstar talent might be over the UK, the supporting roster as a whole is in the favor of the UK. But like I've said, UK as an entire roster have looked relatively shaky. Like I mentioned before, the only thing that seems very consistent with UK is their tapping mechanics and their aim. You could also add in their hard rock if you wanted to, considering how well Marmot and Akolibad have been. They've both been very reliable on those two skill sets. And I don't think ceiling is going to be an issue either. I actually feel like the only enemy that UK really have here are themselves. They have potential to really win this match, and I'm very confident in that. But if I was to be a betting man, if I was to try and maximize the potential, I would probably pick Canada to win this, and I'm gonna make it a higher skill because I have faith that UK are going to do well. I have faith that UK are going to pull some good work on this pool because this pool, from what I've not only heard internally, but from my knowledge alone, this is a good UK pool. The UK team love this pool for a multitude of reasons, not just because of how mechanics heavy it is. Because of a multitude of reasons, and there are a lot of maps that UK could do really good on. But the players that I expected before this World Cup to do extremely well, unfortunately, have not reached the standard that I was hoping for, which in my mind takes away a lot of flexibility from this UK team. I still think they're going to beat Canada on tapping mechanics, which is a little brave considering how good Canada can play on that. Again, I think UK can beat them on free mod and hard rock, which again is brave, but those are very much clashes. I feel like the only set that UK have a better stronghold on is no mod. Free mod is contentious. DT's slightly UK favored. Hard Rock and Hidden are contentious, in my opinion. This has potential to be an absolutely incredible match. But if I was a betting man, I would put Canada 6-4. If it goes to tiebreaker, I call UK to win. But if it doesn't, I'm calling Canada.
Change his flag. Say it with your fucking chest, Shiba. It's coming home. It's coming home. Football's coming home.
You are messed up for that, Miles. You are
Dude,
actually so cruel.
Change his flag. If you're gonna say Canada's win, give it to them because I am all UK on this match. I've been a Canada hater for years. I'm gonna continue being a Canada hater. UK, they're gonna get over it this year. I see it completely. Like they weren't having it last week. They may have been a little bit shaky so far this tournament, but I'm seeing it this week. UK, I just think I like what Shiv said in that UK, they have some really good support players. And I think when the skill cap is going to come, they're going to perform a lot better. Mahmoud last week is a revelation. Like he FC'd like 4 maps last week or something. And now you add that to Bubble Man playing to his level, Schiazzo playing to the level we expect of him, Malteser maybe having a better match. Like I think UK, if they play up to their potential, definitely can win this match. I think the bottom half of UK clears the bottom half of Canada. But the big question on this match is exactly what Shiv brought up. Is UK going to have that player to match the top half of Canada? Because if you don't have an answer to Zudi, if you don't have an answer to Cut Paper, you're not going to be able to win any of the maps where they pop off. And I think UK, they can do it. They just need to, play up to their potential. And that's its own question in itself. But until then, I'm going to do as the patriotic Brits do during the World Cup, and I will say that football is coming home 6-4.
I want UK to win so bad. My heart is not matching with my brain. You know, I would be elated. I will root for UK all the way. But if I was to be a guesser and a betting man, I'd put Canada. But I hope they win. So
Just
Are you actually
do
putting Canada on the full circle prediction, or
yeah,
what?
like come on,
Oh,
Shiva.
you guys are so fucked up to me,
You
man.
guys, Shiva,
What the
if you're
fuck's
gonna be
wrong
a
with
patriot,
you?
be a patriot. I will never vote against USA on this podcast. You should never vote against UK on this podcast.
Unlike you, I don't let my patriotism delude myself into thinking that USA are beating South Korea this
Yeah,
year.
dude.
Unfortunately
I'm
for
sorry,
you,
dude.
Sheba,
Was I
Miles is a
delusional?
USA patriot, and they have won the last 6 in a row.
That the USA actually lost. No,
It's not-
I'm
it's
not fucking delusional,
Brother,
Shiba.
they got so lucky in 2023.
All right. We are not on the Sickos podcast. Scale it back. Scale it back. Scale it back.
Welcome to full sickos. Holy shit. Fine,
Alright.
keep my flag UK. Fine, I'll put UK fucking winning. I hate you, Miles. You're so cruel. You're so cruel.
I feel like it's
evil.
gonna be 4 UK flags that are gonna show up.
UK tiebreaker win. I've changed my mind. I've actually changed my pick'ems. I'll fucking screenshot and post on Twitter. I've changed it, okay? Thank you. Fucking Miles, man. He's such an arsehole.
Where did he go?
He just
Alright.
ran away.
I'm picking.
Aaron,
picking
put us back
Canada.
on track.
I'm picking Canada. I think they're the better team. That's all there is to it. I just think Canada's better.
He's
I
saving
like-
up all his yap for USA Australia.
I don't even like. We'll get there when we get there. Like I don't even know that I have that much to say on that. I just think Canada's a better team. United Kingdom like is in a weird spot this year where they won their first couple matches. They beat Chile and then they got crushed by Australia. So it's like I don't know how good this team is. Like I was saying before, Canada's just a little bit of more of a known quantity, and I think the pool is good for their newer identity as a team. I think. They can contest whatever speed they decide to leave up, and they will win a lot of other stuff. And I think they're just better.
Yeah, I also think Canada's better. So I have Canada.
Okay, never mind. I lied.
Yeah, you lied. You lied.
I-
We actually.
I don't know.
Like
I
they're
was
just
like,
better.
yeah,
What do
UK.
you want? Yeah,
Peer pressure,
Canada.
and Miles just hates Canada.
Canada. He's voting with you. Why are you both mad at each other? You're voting with each other. I don't understand. Anyway,
I'm telling him to say it with his chest.
yes.
That's all I'm saying.
Canada is the straight up better hidden team. They will win hidden picks against the UK. They are still a very good aim control alt team. That is one of the team's specialties. And there's a lot of that in free mod. If they don't over mod every free mod pick with double hidden hard rock and hidden this week. Thank you, Canada. Stop doing that. Then they probably win those as well. They can at least contest hard rock. They are contestable on some of the DTs as well, especially DT4, DT2, I think are good for them. And even though they did overmod the free mod 1 last week, they were still number 2 out of 8. Again, only losing to USA, who they lost in match to, right? Like, even with the overmod there, they were still better with the optional hidden hard rock for Zudinator. She was the only FC, despite being the overmod.
The actual overmod was Ryuke Hard Rock.
Yeah.
That's the actual overmod. Kazudi's always going to run HDHR.
Yeah, but still, they still are able to put up good scores there. They actually beat UK on the speed free mod. Now, I think UK really low rolled that. I don't expect Canada to have a solid advantage on that, but this is a very, very winnable match for Canada. I think through the tournament, Canada has also been performing really well on a lot of these same areas. They were number 1 overall on the round of 16 Hard Rock 2. They still had good head-to-heads on Hidden in round of 16. Even in round of 32, they were top scoring maps. And again, close on some of the free mods there. And then, of course, qualifiers is Canada favored because UK was at LAN. So, yeah, I just think Canada is the straight-up better team. I feel like they have the better players. I think that both of these teams will still be able to scale, but Canada will win because they are better. And they have shown better scores through the tournament to make me feel comfortable saying that here as well. Okay.
It's
On
time.
to the next match. We are into the winners bracket now. We're going to start off with the, I feel like probably on paper less interesting winners bracket match of the weekend, which is South Korea versus Germany. I'll start us off with this one, and I'll give probably the prevailing opinion of this is going to be South Korea, and I don't think this is particularly close. I don't know if that's going to be prevailing opinion or not, but I don't think this is particularly close. I think South Korea is good enough at the higher BPM stuff this year that despite this pool being faster than previous ones, and there being a lot of secondary tapping throughout the pool, it's just not going to matter all that much, and South Korea will probably still be able to take the win. They are the best hidden team in the tournament. They have a better Hard Rock roster than Germany with players like Karcher, worst HR player, Allegrissimo, even Doomsday Fanboy can go in for and do really well on some of these Hard Rocks. Hyok, of course, is very good on stuff like the Hard Rock 1, Hard Rock 2 this week. Even their speed roster has beaten Germany's in qualifiers. They actually outscore Germany on DT2. They have some higher scores than Germany's second score on DT3 in qualifiers. They have the ability to take these points. And so for Germany, it's less a question of, what do we do after speed abusing? It's, does the speed abuse work in the first place? Because South Korea is still good enough to win those points against Germany in this match. And I think that is what tips this match for me from being like, okay, maybe this could be close if Germany gets a lot of speed abuse in and then, narrows down the pool a little bit near the end, to, is that even going to happen in the first place? Like, can they even get to that point of narrowing down the pool? And my answer is I don't think so. I think this is like 6-2 for South Korea.
Yeah, I unfortunately kind of just don't see a world where this is super close either. South Korea is, like, by such a massive margin so far, the best team in the tournament. It's actually ridiculous. I think, geez, you've got worst HR player number 1 performance score, Flying Tuna number 5 performance score, Hyok and Fragrance of Page number 13 and 14 performance score, Karcher 17th. Like, holy crap, how much better could this team even be? They played 6 maps last week and they got the number 1 overall score on 4 of them. Like, South Korea is just unbelievably good. And I think this whole ongoing discussion about, oh, South Korea is so bad at speed, like, I'm with Dio on this one. I think it's to the point where they're underrated on speed. Like, I know it's still not their best skill set, obviously. I know there are a couple teams that are still better than them at it, obviously. But people are actually underrating South Korea's speed at this point, which is insane to me to be saying that, but here we are. So yeah, I'm with Theo. It's South Korea, and it's like, I have 6-2 in my pick'ems, and I think it probably plays out kind of close to that. I would love to see Germany make this close, right? Like, I would love to see, Kriller just go absolutely nuts. Maybe see, who knows, like Zeitfrost or Fla or Ahoff, like, absolutely pop off some of these newer players to the roster, but I just don't see it happening. The South Korea team is so freaking broken this year, man. It's unbelievable how good they are, and that's just going to continue to show this week and into the further rounds.
Okay, I don't want to repeat anything that's already been said, but I'll say that the number 1 question with South Korean speed this week comes with the scaling. Because, yeah, they've been good on DT so far, but they've been good on speed in general, but this pool is a big step up in that regard. You've got 300 BPM in the DT3. You've got just generally harder tapping in this pool. Thinking of You being a very difficult stamina map with a lot of flow aim as well. This is going to be their big test. And as much as I want to say South Korea is just going to, like, wipe the floor with Germany, like, that's a skill set that Germany is still good at and proven year in and year out to have really high skill cap on it. And I'm a little less worried about them on those maps in particular. I still think this isn't really close. I think South Korea is going to win this one. But, like, Germany, I'm a lot more comfortable saying that they at least get a couple points in this one, like at least 1 or 2. Like, if they can sweep the floor with tapping and win, like, every, like, specialized tapping pick in the pool, I'd be really impressed. But I think they at least get 1 or 2. I'm not exactly sure which one it'll be. I'm a little more inclined to say that they could win Thinking of You HR3 or perhaps Arrival of Tears DT3. But otherwise, like, yeah, everything that was just said. South Korea is too good.
Yeah, not too much to really add. I mean, Krilla was the only player that was ahead of the rest of the Korean players outside of West HR player, who was number 1. He was number 2, which says a good thing. It says a good thing about Germany, but unfortunately, the real thing as Germany that you're looking for is something that Krilla is not really going to be prioritized on. You can see hope on Hard Rock. You can see hope on Free Mod, but that's all it is. It's just hope. Tapping, even then, Korea can beat them. I think 6-2 is a optimistic scoreline for Germany. Germany would be very lucky to get more than a third point, and that's not even dissing Germany, man. This team's crazy. Korea is just absolutely revolting. There's nothing else you can do. 6-2 is the absolute best I can give Germany.
Yeah, for any League of Legends fans out here, I see this match the same way I see something like T1 versus G2, where it's like I don't even like. There was one time when G2 actually beat T1, but that was maybe like a couple years ago.
I
I
was
feel like
there.
now, yeah, that aside, I think now it's just like this roster is just so unbelievably broken. Um, I don't even like. We talked about how yes, Germany can definitely get some picks for sure. I think that Mars brought up a super good point. The scaling has gotten super hard for tapping, and I even saw like a Hyok Twitter clip where he was not having
I
a
saw
good
that.
time on the DT1. So I definitely think Germany going to be having at least a couple options for sure. But after the speed maps go, you ban Hard Rock 3 DT3, and then you play DT1, DT2, and you have a normal 2 stream map, and everything else is like finger control at max. Um, like what do you even pick? Thankfully, the silver lining is that I think Krilla is one of the only players in the entire game that's capable of like even matching form. And I am just more worried that although maybe Krilla can match form, you need somebody to match Fragrance, you need somebody to match Hyok, you need somebody to match Flying Tuna, you need somebody to match Karcher, and doing all of that is going to be super difficult for this German roster where I haven't seen any star performances. Players like White Cat and Okinamo, definitely I've seen better days in the past in terms of relative scoring. And players like Tim Kakner, Yeri, I just haven't seen enough power from them to really ascend to the status of beating some of these top tier South Korean tournament players. And like we talked about a little bit about these last 2 German players, Zyfrost, Flair, Alhoff. I just don't know what they can do on a 7.6 star pool besides maybe some mechanics picks for Flair. That's going to be like, oh yeah, this is the make or break for Germany. That's going to separate them from winning this match and losing. So I'm gonna go SK. I have it at 6-2. Because I think that Germany will get 2 points on something tapping related. But pretty much besides that, I think South Korea is gonna take this match by storm. They haven't lost. They haven't even lost a point this entire tournament. So we'll see.
All right. And that will do it for that first winners bracket match. Not too surprising, I think, to see everyone voting South Korea on this one. I will be more surprised if the next one is completely one-sided in terms of voting. It's Australia versus United States in the winners bracket. This one is a tough one to call. So let's start with the people whose votes I already know. Aaron, Miles, which one of you wants to start us off for United States? United States of Cookiezi? I don't know.
He's the US guy. Let's go. I gotta go Miles here.
I got 3 things. God bless our troops. God bless America. Gentlemen, start your engine.
Where's that from again? I don't even remember
Let's
the
go,
reference.
Miles. It's like WWE, isn't it?
No. It was
Start
like
your engines.
NASCAR.
That's NASCAR.
NASCAR or something.
I don't know.
Okay.
Something like WWE.
I honestly don't even want to do any real analysis on this. US is gonna win it. They're gonna win it like 6-4 or something. Australia, they're gonna pick speed. USA have a chance to break point that. USA is gonna try to gimmick abuse this Australia team in this round, picking things like aim control. Although their roster isn't necessarily built towards that, they're still gonna be okay at it, and they're still gonna want to pick it. But I said I wasn't going to do analysis, and I just started doing analysis. I shouldn't say anything. I'll give you guys the floor. You know how I'm going to vote, so let's just go on.
All right.
I love you, Miles. Never change.
Yeah, like Australia is the best, like just raw tapping mechanics team in the tournament, right? I think that is pretty much settled, and that makes this match very interesting because there's like 5 or 6 maps that they will be super comfortable with in that skill set alone. I actually like. I think this and the Chile Hong Kong are like my 2 like matches of the week in my mind. because Australia's gotten a lot better since last year. Like, gone are the days of them getting beat, what was it, 7-1 or whatever, 7-0, 7-1, I forget, in losers final last year.
Yeah.
I think this is going to be a much, much more competitive affair. Listen, it's like you've got Emmerich on your team as Australia. Like, that's the ultimate X factor because he can just come in and FC every single map in the pool. And I know he's been practicing this pool a lot, and he's like ready to freaking go. I think Australia is a much more locked in team than we've seen them be pretty much ever before, because they know that this is their chance. But like, it's the United States in the World Cup in a relatively late stage pool. I think we were talking about this earlier, and we've had the big question mark for the United States coming through this tournament was going to be, is Utami back? And last week he got number 3 match or performance score overall. So I think it's pretty safe to say that Utami's back. When you add that together with the level that we've seen pretty much the rest of this team on so far this year, it's very, very difficult. I think United States has always leaned on the fact that they are the deepest country, deepest roster in the world. And there's only, I think, one team that can match their depth this year. And unfortunately for Australia, they are not that team. This is going to be a crazy close match. I would not be surprised to see Australia pull this one off. I really wouldn't. And there's that little part of me that is like, man, maybe it's somebody else's time. But I don't think this is the match where that's going to happen. I think USA wins it. I think it goes like 6-4. I think it's cinema. I think it's back and forth. I think both teams perform really, really well because they're both super raring to go for this matchup. But I think USA is just, they're the USA. When they lock in for late stage matches, they don't tend to lose them. They've lost they lost the one semifinal in a really weird freak fashion 2 years ago, and they lost because they got early staged by Canada last year. Other than that, they haven't lost a semifinals or later match. They haven't lost a match, period, right, in years and years and years. And they just have too much history, too much just X factor to draw on for me to see them losing this one.
Who wants to continue?
Let's just keep going down the line.
Technically,
So
you're next down the line.
That means you're next.
Now, that actually does mean I'm next. All right. Well, I already have my piece. I have Australia winning this, and I have Australia winning for the same reason you have USA winning, Aaron. They have more roster depth than USA this year. You look at the players who are massive contributors to Australia and their roster this year. They had 4 people in the top 25 performance scores. You have Emrek, you have a Secret Box, you have AKNZX, you have Zintex. Emrek played 7 of 7. A Secret Box played 7 of 7. Zintex played 7 of 7. AKNZX played 5 of 7 last weekend. And they were all averaging very, very high average scores. 900k for MREC, 800k for Secret Box, 917k for AKNZX, almost 700k for Zintex. This roster has the depth. They have the players who can still go in for a lot of things and do very well, to the point that even in quarterfinals, they didn't really need anybody else to win that match 6-1. Putting it in that perspective, I think changes things a lot because while, yes, USA has roster depth, they have carry players like Utami and Rectagon, they can be matched. They can be matched by the people from Australia. And I think that this pool is good enough for Australia that I can favor them a little bit. And to that point, while we have seen players like Rectagon play really well, I've felt a little underwhelmed with how things have gone for the USA so far. Granted, they haven't really had like a tough opponent so far in the bracket, right? Like this is the first, I think, super major test for both of these teams. It was USA versus Canada last week. Canada played very, very well, but USA just played better. And Australia played UK. Australia just played really, really solidly. Just looking at the head-to-heads, it's close on I don't know how many maps, but I think roster depth and scaling is going to matter a lot here. And while, yes, both of these teams have it, yes, USA definitely also has it, discounting Australia because of that is the wrong move, I think, and they should end up having a very good match. And I still give it close. I think it's like 6-5. I have tiebreaker. I don't know, man. I don't know which of these teams wins, but I'm going to go Australia because I think otherwise it's going to be a full USA sweep on the broadcast here. So I'm going Australia.
I don't even
Emrek
think
X
that's
Factor on
true, but-
tiebreaker. Emrek X Factor could be real.
Emrek
on
tiebreaker,
not
X
gonna
Factor.
lie.
Yeah,
That could happen.
exactly what I had in mind. I have 6-5 Australia. I think Australia has a super easy way to make this tiebreaker. I'm actually giving them credit. I think most picks that Australia pick will win. Again, this core four mechanics roster of Asika Box, Amrek, AKNZX, Syntax needs no introduction. These guys have been looking super strong, and with a pool that has even more topping than last week, I think these guys are going to have a super solid way to easily make it the tiebreaker if they want to, get to match point. And it's really going to be on United States to really power through the rest of the map pool and see where they can really find these gaps. I'm not saying that United States can't win topping, but I think Australia is going to default towards it in this match because they're just so confident. But besides that, I just think that this Australia is going to win on the mechanics tiebreaker if it comes down to it. I think there is a world where USA gets early momentum and can definitely take the match, but I would say that's like 30-70. And the fact that I think Australia just has so much power on the majority of these mechanics heavy maps, and the gimmick player is really going to start shining. JGLF, O/Sio, these guys filling, and Paolo as well, going to be filling in most of the reading and more technical spots, right? And I think that this pool itself, you have lovely Ice Cream Princess Sweetie, you have stuff like Cell on Free Mod, you have Kamiri. These guys are going to be looking super good on backing them up with the hiddens, with the less mechanic intensive picks. And I think that I'm pretty confident Australia's going to win this match.
All right, Shiba, last one. We'll wrap it up
Tiebreaker.
here.
Good luck. Have fun. Have fun.
Okay.
Tiebreaker. He's picking Australia.
Okay. First and foremost, this has the potential to be the best match of the entire tournament. I would probably put South Korea to be a bit more one-sided over USA compared to this matchup, so I think this could be the best match we could ever get. One of the best matches in World Cup history if it has that potential to come through. That being said, for a team as good as USA, I was expecting not to talk as much, but I wanted just to bring up a few things. I'll try. Look, I'm going to put my do not overyap notepad on my side here, just to make sure I don't go too overboard. But I wanted to say a few extra things just to say. For a team like the USA, on this paper roster is absolutely incredible, and in turn, I think it is fair to have incredibly high standards for this team. I do not think that's unfair. I expect very, very consistent and very high scores from this USA team. That being said, not to say they've performed very poorly, but I've not seen the power that I would expect this USA team to do. That on top of the knowing issues that the country regularly has with their mental, with the way they deal with pressure, and the fact that they only seem to really perform to exceptional levels when they lose, I'm not able to put as much confidence in USA to take down Australia, who are not only the way hungrier team, but also the way more consistent team and the team that's way stronger on the mental. Australia, you look at them like a band of brothers, right? They all kind of were raised from at the same time from the ground up, quite literally like a completely new generation for Australia. And every single week they have performed amazingly well. And that's beating teams on some of the best skill sets, on some of the best stuff out of nowhere. Of course, it also is a blessing to have the literal best player of all time. I think it's going to be close. I think the skill set matchup is more diverse in favor of USA. I personally disagree with the skill set depth, but that's just my opinion. It doesn't really change the fact for me, though, is that Australia are just a lot stronger on a lot of things. On paper, USA are more versatile, but still Australia somehow are just better on so many things. I think until USA lose, they're not going to really lock in and get their shit together. So I think Australia are going to be the next team in that exclusive club to take down USA before grand finals. And regardless of whether or not it goes to tiebreaker, I think Australia will win 6-4 or 6-5. It would be incredible if it's tiebreaker. But regardless of either of those two scorelines, I think Australia win. And regardless, I hope it's a good match because I think it's going to be absolutely amazing if it goes well.
3-2 Aus to USA is fucking crazy, I will say.
I got it in tiebreaker, all right? Like, I don't know how to pick this match,
that's
actually.
6-4 or tiebreaker.
Crazy
So,
work.
I don't know.
Tiebreaker. Like, we're not saying USA suck ass here, okay?
No, but imagine a year ago.
not
Imagine
as
a
good as
year
we
ago.
expected.
Yeah, a
seeing
year
this
ago,
pick 'em.
seeing this would be wild.
Yeah, a year ago,
yeah.
but I
I
mean,
mean,
it's
even
seed
on
2
paper, like
versus seed
before we
3.
saw the previous results, it would be the same thing. Like,
Yeah.
previous
Yeah.
results is the only thing that have like made me probably me, Shiv, and Dio decide on Australia taking it. You know, if we saw this purely on paper, I'd put USA.
Yeah.
Probably like 6-3.
Oh no, easily, yeah. I think roster name-wise, USA is stronger, but I think overall performance in the tournament, Australia just looks so good over and over again every single week. They really defy the expectations. And I kind of like those odds. So I'm down to go with Australia.
Yeah. All right. Well, regardless, it's going to be a good weekend of matches. We have a lot of matches that should be pretty close this weekend, just as like a fraction of the only 8 matches that we have in semifinals. So I'm looking forward to it a lot. I hope you all are too. First match of the weekend is going to be Saturday 14 UTC in the losers bracket. So tune in on the OS Live channel for that. Thanks everyone for watching. Thanks for hanging out. This has been Full Circle, and we'll see you back here next week for the semifinals recap and finals predictions.
Bye bye.